Right. 10 seconds. 9, 8. Good evening. Welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, October 8th, 2024. Before we get underway, Pastor Lisa Keck from the Defiance Church of the Nazarene is our guest here this evening to open us up in prayer. Thank you for being our guest this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for having me today. I would just like to go ahead and bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, first I want to give thanks for this opportunity. God, I want to give thanks for the beautiful day in this beautiful city. Each person here, I'm sure, has a busy life outside of this chamber, and they deem it important enough to be here to carry out the vision and the mission set before them. God, I ask that you grant each of them individually and collectively with wisdom to carry out the business of the city, and that they remain kindful and true-hearted among peers and among their community. I give all this in Jesus' name. I give thanks. Amen.
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 Thank you.
And thank you for being our guest, and thank you for your ministry here in town.
Thank you. Right.
This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present this evening, except for Mr. Waxler and Mrs. Crutch. Both of them gave us the heads up that they couldn't make it this evening. Do we have a motion to excuse Mr. Waxler this evening?
So moved. Second.
Moved. Second. All those in favor of excusing Mr. Waxler this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And do we have a motion to excuse Mrs. Crutch?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Corbett?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Hancock. All those in favor of excusing Mrs. Crutch this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, she's excused as well. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a special guest this evening who is en route, and so we will cut to him when he arrives. Do we have any liaison meeting reports or requests? Mr. Corbett.
Mr. President, I have a request on October the 22nd. There will be a joint Finance, Water, Sewer Committee of the whole meeting to discuss the 2025 capital project priorities in the council chamber starting at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay. We have a request for such a meeting, October 22nd, 5 o'clock, here in council chambers. It would be a joint finance, water, and sewer meeting. We have such a request. Do we have a second? Second. Right. All of us in favor of having such a meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right. Please put it on the calendar. Well done. Do we have any other liaison meeting requests or reports? Right. Do we have any comments from council this evening? Mr. Uresti.
I just have a question on, I know there's a lot of projects that are going on in Defiance. Just an update on housing in Defiance. Do the apartments behind Walmart, are they on schedule?
I'm not necessarily sure what schedule they would be on, Councilman. I know that they progress and talk between engineers, things like that, have been taking place between our engineering firm. We can get you a full report on that at the next meeting if you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? All right. Before we move on to the Board of Control, it looks like our special guest is here. Maybe we could have our special guest come forward and we'll get to the Board of Control and afterwards.
Thank you.
Thanks for being our guest.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me tonight. Apologize for being late, but
Traffic,
and
right.
for the viewers, this is Josh Bush with DCTV. You're the Director of Operations.
correct.
Right. Thanks for being our guest this evening.
Yeah. So part of the reason why I started is because what we're here to talk about a potential equipment upgrade for DCTV that we spoke to some of the Board of Control about, and the current equipment is not functioning properly. It's quite outdated. Well, backstory, I thought about this after I left on Friday. The same system that is being used to transmit back to DCTV was the same system when I was a freshman in college and worked at DCTV 24 years ago. It's the same technology. So unfortunately, it doesn't switch automatically anymore. So I was there to turn the system on to receive the feed from here. So we are looking at some upgrades on both ends, which would be here at City Council and then in the DCTV building as well, that would fix those problems. The technology is very, very outdated. So we haven't exactly explored the exact cost of replacing or fixing the current system, but the anticipated cost would be probably 25 to 50% of the cost of switching out the system to something that's current. So
Mr. Mack?
Yes, so just to kind of preface, we have had some issues with the, well, as you know, over the last couple of months with sound quality, with people being able to see the picture, different things going on with how we've been trying to transmit council. We did meet with DCTV and your council clerk, and came up with, they have a list of issues or concerns or things they want to upgrade. I think the point of this, was to just get DCTV in front of all of you to explain that sort of, those sort of issues as we head into budget season, in case you have any questions about what may need upgraded. So that when you see that as a line item, for the budget season, you'll know what we're talking about. So that was the point of Mr. Bush coming tonight.
Mr. Corbett?
Josh, and I know you mentioned the cost to try to fix what you have, but are there parts available for everything, or is it antiquated out?
it's pretty antiquated. The system that we were using to manage broadcast, the technology and the hardware, it's obsolete. It's not supported anymore, so we can't actually get that part of it fixed. The hardwire, the way the transmission from here works is it's called a modulator. It's like a little amplifier back there, but it basically sends an analog RF signal back to our building, and then it decodes it on the other side. That technology could be replaced potentially, but in my experience, it's $1,000 for them to look at it and tell you what's wrong. And then if it's a transistor, or it could be a multitude of issues. So then that cost, it would just depend. I mean, but the starting cost is typically already, 4 digits usually, just for them to tell you what's wrong, before you even get to actually fixing it. So.
I got one more question. Can you speak to the type of broadcasting you can do in the venues you can get to with this new cactus system over and above just YouTube that would make our government more transparent to our community?
Yeah, so currently our live transmissions right now, we're pretty much reduced to our YouTube channel, which our crew, a little shout out to our crew, they're at Tenora right now for a volleyball game. So
Rams.
We currently, with the old system, you have to have a point-to-point back to the studio. There's only 3 places that you can do that. One is here, one is by State Bank, which has been used traditionally for the Halloween parade, and then the other one is in the Strady Center. So the new system would be a digital encoder that you would connect to an internet connection. It would transmit a high definition picture back, decoded into the system, not only live on DCTV, but it would be on demand on our website. We could push it to YouTube. You can push it wherever you want. There's other options down the line that we're probably going to explore at some point, but would include a DCTV app that would be able to be downloaded. So it would be a free app that you could watch the programming. It would also have a video on demand archive So city council meetings or whatever we expand to, that, I mean, government is a big piece of public access TV. So we'd like to see that expand a little bit too, and with some of our programming, not just city council, but what other things can we help with? And so to get out there, and we did do some city events earlier this year. I mean, so far this year, the 9/11 ceremony that the fire department did. We did the Memorial Day service at the cemetery. But again, our live capabilities there are just to YouTube at this point. So.
Mr. Rusty?
Once you had approval for this replacement, repair, whatever, how soon would you be able to get somebody to come in and look at it?
2 weeks. The new system build out is 2 weeks to build out, and then they would send somebody to install. Obviously, there's a piece to that too, where we'd have to have a Spectrum tech come in and look at the connection from that to theirs. But yeah, in 2 weeks, the company can have the system built for for our specific needs, and then the installation as soon as they can get Spectrum coordinated with their tech. So we would anticipate no more than a month.
Mr. Mast?
Do you have cost estimates? I mean, what are we ballparking?
Yeah, so we have the system, the base system is just for the piece that I want to pull this up for myself so I don't misspeak, but the base system, the hardware that goes in the rack and all that is $18,000, and then you have to have the encoders for live broadcast. So we'd obviously would want one that would stay here at City Council since we use it so much. But those are $1,500 a piece. So
would those be able to be mobile? I mean,
absolutely, yeah, they're this big.
So you'd keep one on site here, and then you can have mobiles for elsewhere.
Yeah, we could add to that if we were to get to expand to where we're in multiples. But obviously, if we're going to keep one here, we'd want to have we would have a second one that we would be able to take out, for other events. So that's the base cost, and then once you start to get into more of the pieces, the total, all the bells and whistles is $36,000. We're not looking to go to that point at right now. I mean, those are apps and all that stuff, but those are things that could be added down the line. But we're in the ballpark of 20 to 25,000 just for the base equipment that would be needed to upgrade.
Would there need to be utility upgrades of any kind, or is that
not that I can foresee?
Spectrum?
I mean, we have high-speed internet in our building already from Spectrum, and I know obviously there's high-speed internet here. So we travel with portable. We have a Starlink system that we take with us to mobile sites, as we found that internet connections everywhere are not always reliable. School networks they're reliable, but they block streaming, so they're most of the time unusable too.
So what is the annual budget for DCTV?
The annual budget is, I believe, about $160,000.
About $160,000? And is that all from the city?
So some of that is from the city. I don't know exactly what the piece is from the city. I've been trying to move our programming to be more self-sufficient. So I use our sports program as an example. Our sports programming is all self-sufficient right now through the underwriters that are supporting the program. So on a given night, depending on the sport, football is more expensive because we take 5 cameras out. Volleyball, we use 2. So our budget is anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a game. But the underwriters that we have in those are all paying for that portion of what we're doing. So we're trying to make those programs. That's the biggest workload that we have right now. But as we move forward with more consistent programming on DCTV that's not sports related, we're hoping that underwriters will be able to support those as well and make some of that programming a little more self-sufficient. Problem is right now we have no consistency because that system that runs everything is semi-functional at best. So until we have that, I don't feel it's justice to an underwriter to sponsor something that or to help with something that we can't say is gonna be 100% consistent all the time.
Okay, but yeah, my question was, so if your budget's like $160,000 a year, does the city provide 100,000 of that,
We
120,000?
we provide between 195 and 200 from the franchise fees, and then also 15,000 from hotel motel.
Okay.
So that's what we,
I'm not 100% on the budget, yeah, so. But
we just stop.
I'm just,
Not
I'm
just
just,
operate.
yeah, so I've only been in this position for a few months, so.
Oh,
um,
put on the spot.
Yeah, so I do know we're under the Defiance Community Cultural Council, and that group, has been really proactive at budgeting, a little bit, more proactively, at some of my requests too, because there was not, that proactive thought of technology is expensive and it's not going to last forever, so, and you know, we're dealing with a lot of stuff that's 20 years old or more.
Oh, Mr. Resty?
Mr. Bank, you mentioned that this might be something for us to consider during the budget. But something of this important, can something like this be brought sooner so that we can start discussing, the need?
You need to try to get it done yet this year without, not put it in the budget for next year, but try to get it done sooner. I think that would be a finance director question.
I don't think we can take it on. I've talked to Josh, we talked a little bit earlier, and it's a January 1. If you guys approve it, when we have a dollar amount pinned down, I have no problem getting them a check right away the first part of January, but we've got a lot of moving pieces yet for the rest of the year. It's a decent sized chunk of money. I think it's important that, you know, we look at everything as we finish out the rest of the year.
Okay.
Mr. Hancock?
I was just gonna mention about the technology, technology that you're looking into, will bring us up to date for the most part.
Yeah.
Do you foresee will we be able to do add-ons in the future?
Yeah, so one of the big pieces for me is being able to maintain the program. This does come with 1 year of their tech support and upgrades, any system upgrades that they do, it's included in the first year, and that would be something we would budget for moving forward, was to make sure that we have that in the budget to continue that support piece. So that way, you know, obviously the technology upgrades a lot. So they push the upgrades, if something happens, they take care of it. I mean, that is in the plan, but it's included with the first year, but we would be budgeting for that moving forward to make sure that we can stay on top of keeping that system up to date.
Oh, Mr. Corbett?
Well, I think part of why you're here tonight is to talk to council to explain the system, what it would do, what's the benefits, but also to get a feel from this board if you're going to push it through the budget for them, if you feel that it's worthwhile. So they can begin to make the type of plans they need to do. They can do that prior to January 1st, as far as making sure they've got the order ready to go. And
I think the direction's positive at this point. I think it's something that's much needed in our community.
yeah.
A lot of people view it and it provides a good service.
Well, I know when they get to all the bells and whistles, there's other ways they can watch it that would benefit everybody. So, but that's 36.
Yeah, that's it's down the road.
Mr. Mast?
Mr. Rusty's right. I think this is gonna be something important that we're gonna have to do at some point to get us out of the analog days and prepare for the future. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever to put any money into what's there currently. I mean, it sounds like that just needs to be scrapped and we need to move on with it. So
Already spent a lot back there.
we'll have to figure out where the money's gonna come from at some point, but it's something that's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, that's a good question. If, in the proposed update, would the equipment back here need to be updated?
No, that most of the stuff that's back there. So the way it's currently set up is the technology that's actually in the control room here is really nice. It's very well. It's been very well updated.
I say we just bought it.
But we're essentially taking an HDMI a high def signal and breaking it down into coax. And that's being pushed back to the studio. So by the time it gets done being broken down, you're actually not getting out of what your system can do in the current setup. So the signal going back with the new system would again be, I mean, it would be full HD and would look just
This
as
could be a
crystal
clearer
clear.
picture, because I have some concerns about that,
Yeah.
Judge, frankly.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, when it comes back, even our transmission out of the current system is it's old analog technology that's going to Spectrum. So even that technology, that's part of this upgrade, would be that piece of the puzzle that goes out to Spectrum would be upgraded as well. Cause if you watch, I mean, you're not even getting full screen on a lot of stuff because it doesn't have the capability, that system doesn't have the capability to push, 1080, so.
Any other questions for our guest?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being our guest tonight.
Thank you guys for inviting me, appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
So the mayor isn't here this evening,
Correct.
but we can move on to the Board of Control. Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just two quick things. One, the Witches Brew for Casa is coming up this Thursday, so the reason I bring that up, tickets are sold out. They were sold out the first day. But just to have everybody be mindful that we will have a lot of pedestrians in the downtown Thursday afternoon into the evening. So just watch out for those folks trying to have a good time. And then secondly, we need to have a traffic safety commission meeting. So I would propose that Tuesday, the 29th at 5 p.m. We consider doing one, and I'm looking at you, Councilman Uresti, because you're the only at-large councilman here.
Yes.
To make sure that that's okay with you,
Yeah.
we have someone put in for a driveway enlargement with our city engineer. She denied it, and so they're appealing to the board. So we need to get a meeting in so that we can take a look at that and review it.
Be good.
Good with you? All right,
Sorry, Mr. Mack, you said 5?
5 p.m. Yeah,
The
Okay.
29th driveway enlargement.
it's just a traffic safety commission meeting.
I know, but I have to have an agenda to it. So you want
Do
me
you to
to
do the agenda to it? Yes.
on here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's for an appeal for driveway
Okay, thank you.
enlargement. Yes.
Are there usually other general items that you discuss, that we discuss in traffic commission?
If a topic comes up, going back to the minutes, it seems like traffic safety commission meeting is called for a reason, and then if something comes before the board, then something comes before the board.
I was just
for
following
discussion.
up with the question.
So, yeah.
That it's not, doesn't stop after we finish with
Correct.
this, if there's other items
Yeah.
that need to be discussed. Like traffic light, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
And that is all, Mr. President.
That's all. Mr. O'Donnell.
I have nothing at this time, Mr. President.
Ms. Sprague.
Just a couple of things. One purchase order, 2024-01429, to the Multi-Area Narcotics Task Force, for $25,000. That comes out of our opioid funds. So it'll help sustain a program that they're starting there towards opioid use. And then I just wanted to mention, I attended the DC Homecoming Alumni on Saturday, and awards, which I wasn't the one that got an award, it was my husband. So, not me. But anyways, I had a couple people come up at the breakfast and just comment on how nice Webster Street looked. And it really does. It really makes everything out there look really nice. Kind of ties the facilities all together on both sides of the street. So they were very appreciative of that being done, and just said thanks. So.
Okay. And I had someone from the public who recognized me as being someone affiliated with you here at council, and said that the donation of the opioid money for that program was a great idea, and it's what the money was actually designated to go and do.
We try.
Yeah, and so I didn't know what sort of balance we have.
I looked earlier this week, and we've got about 35,000. It's very sporadic when it comes in, usually initiated by an email saying there's a lawsuit that's been settled and, you know, a list of people or entities receiving funds. So I don't know, Sean may know, I don't know if we know how long it'll sustain itself. We've been very clear with the money that we've handed out that it's just kind of a one-time thing. It really started last year and kind of picked up this. I guess I've only been here a year and a half. It seems like it's gotten more frequently in this year, but just chunks of money coming in and then finding a good use for it. So I think this is well deserved and will be put to good use.
And finding a good place to use this money is
Yep.
a good problem to have.
Yeah,
Yeah, so good job.
thanks. Wasn't my idea.
It's all our finance directors.
Yeah.
No.
No.
With that, we have 2 items of legislation for consideration this evening.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance accepting a donation of property located at 102 Washington Avenue.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. President. The late attorney Tim Hutchison lived on Lot 1 of the original plat of Defiance, Ohio. And what you see here is the original plat of Defiance, Ohio, what we celebrated last year with the bicentennial, the recording of said plat. And if you look at the very corner of, they used to call it Front Street, now we call it Fort Street. And Washington now Avenue is, that's Lot 1. And that's where Mr. Hutchison lived. And there's a historic house there. After he passed away, an LLC acquired the property from his estate, and the individual who owns and manages that LLC has offered to donate the property to the city free of charge in lieu of demolishing that historic home. I mean, there will be some closing costs, minimum, de minimis costs related to closing, but otherwise free of charge. So we see the historic value and more practical value of possible meeting space for civic groups and groups that want to meet in here or maybe at the front conference room but can't because the rooms are all booked up. So there's obviously 5 of you here tonight, only 5 of you. So the motion to suspend the rules is not available tonight, but if it passes on a second reading, that would enable the city to go ahead and enter into a donation agreement and accept this donation.
Thank you. While we don't have enough to suspend the rules this evening, do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell in these regards? Mr.
I
Uresti?
just have a comment. I mentioned this, I think, the other day when we met. But because this is centered around a historic house, do we need to, along with this down the road, maybe consider making that area a historic overlay district to preserve the value of the homes and also of this house that we're going to take possession of?
I don't have anything necessarily for you to create an overlay district right now. If it's a conversation that we want to have, we can obviously get our city planner in here and discuss with her what that might look like if that's something that council's interested in.
That's just a comment.
Do we have any other questions in these regards? Mr. Corbett?
Motion to let lie.
We have a motion to let lie.
Second.
Second. Mr. Engel? All those in favor of letting this issue lie and picking it up next time we meet, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We will let this issue lie.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance accepting the annexation of 16.289 acres of land located in Richland Township, Defiance County, Ohio, RC 709.04.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. President. Council may recall adopting and passing a resolution for the provision of government services, utilities and such way back on June 4th of this year. And one of the final steps of the whole annexation process, what we call type 2 unanimous consent annexations are for the legislative authority for the municipality to accept or reject the annexation petition. And that's what's before you here with this ordinance tonight. Like the clerk just read, it's 16.289 acres in total. We'll take another map break. That's in addition, that's right here. We got Upton Street, Riverview, here's Domersville, General Motors over here. This is in addition to the 1.19 acres you may recall approving the annexation petition in 2023. So it'll be this whole rectangular piece here. It's going to be the proposed development is from New Home Development Corporation, adding some residential development, I believe, for some special needs and quite frankly something the city needs. And so if again, you can't suspend the rules tonight, but if it passes at the next meeting or maybe the following meeting, the council clerk would then submit a certified copy of the resolution to our friends at the Board of Commissioners. A lot of people ask me, can we pass these by emergency? My answer is usually the lawyer answer, well, yes and no. It can be an emergency if you want, but section 709.10 of the Ohio Revised Code says it doesn't take effect for 30 days anyway, so I just leave them as regular order.
Do we have any questions in these regards for Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Engel?
There's no questions, most let lie.
No questions. We have a motion to let lie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mast? All those in favor of letting this issue lie this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we will let this issue lie until next time. Did any of you come with any citizens' concerns before we adjourn for the evening? I did get one question. In fact, I reached out at the call to the person who called in with a question, and I figured as long as we're discussing it, I could toss it up for you to take a swing at. There was a citizen that was in favor of the capture, spay, release program and was wondering what the city's concerns are about feeding strays if we are having the capture, release, spay, release program. My first reaction was that by feeding strays and encouraging them to continue to come in or frequent the city or the spreading any sort of disease or spreading out any other sort of cats, by multiplying. But I figured I am a secondhand expert on this and you are the real expert.
I will happily defer to the law director after I give just 2 seconds because I ran into this issue this week of an individual. I happened to be going over to their house for something and I saw cat food sitting on the steps coming out of their house. I said, you realize you're not supposed to be doing that? I said, well, why? My cat's outdoors. I said, okay, does your cat go onto neighbors' properties? Well, probably it's an outdoor cat. I said, letting your animal that you are in control of, which once you're feeding, we determine that is your animal then. If I'm incorrect, please jump in, Sean. Letting it run all over your neighbors and everyone else's yards, tearing up yards, causing problems is where we get into the issue. That's what we see most often. That's where the complaints generally come from. We don't necessarily go out looking for anybody feeding cats. When we get complaints, it's because those cats that you were feeding and taking care of and therefore have become your cats are also all over your neighbors' yards doing whatever. I have had cat issues on my front porch myself. Where I live, we do have some stray cat issues, hoping those clear up with the spay-neuter program in the long run. But that's basically the reason. If you're feeding the cat, we determine that cat is yours, and then you also can't have your animals running at large, running around other people's properties, destroying them. That's where the concern comes in.
And for a kind-hearted citizen, feeding a cat is not the diabolical evil issue. It's perhaps an engine that causes all these sorts of other ills, like the spreading of disease, the multiplying of stray cats, and all the problems that causes. That it just encourages what we're trying to stop by the whole capture, spay, release program.
Well, Mr. President, there's actually two ordinances that we have on point. One's 505.02 and one's 505.10, I believe. And one of them pertains to creating the nuisance condition of just having food out. It could be cats, it could be, raccoons, it could be all sorts of possum, of creatures. How do you know that only the cats are eating from that bowl and that water dish? There's really no way to control that. And then the other ordinance is once you feed, shelter, water, cage, whatever for the animal, that's you exercising control over the animal, with the exception of the spay neuter program. And once you exercise control, that is your animal. And so if it goes onto the neighbor's property and defecates, scratches, digs up, damages in some other form, that we impose the liability on you. So they are misdemeanors in our code, trying to prevent health hazards and just destruction of people's property, protect people's property, what municipalities should be doing. Lastly, I just asked the city administrator, who was that was doing it? Maybe the law department could help.
I believe that I rectified the issue through a good old fashioned conversation, which is always my goal.
He's pleading the fifth.
Being a good neighbor.
Problem addressed is what you're saying.
This does not extend to feeding birds?
Correct, and people ask that, and the answer is, I don't know, you'd have to maybe prove that the exact bird was the one that damaged the neighbor's Maserati or car or something. I don't know. It'd be a challenging case for the prosecution to prove. Cats are a little bit easier to prove.
Mr. Mast, I was right along with that same thought of what feeding the birds, as well as if we have a cat issue. Dogs do well. They seem to reduce the cat population when they're in the area, because we do have dogs in our area and don't see that many cats. But I hope the program does well.
Yeah, usually with the dogs, Mr. Hancock, we get a lot of help from the dog warden's office, the county dog warden's office. If they're at large or they're not tagged, we get a lot of those cases. Cats tend to roam a lot more though, just by their nature, and so that becomes more of an issue.
Mr. O'Donnell, can you explain again perhaps why we don't have registrations for cats? Is there?
You mean at the county level?
Yeah, or any level.
I don't know. I know some jurisdictions do. We've just never had it here in Defiance, and it might just be a simple thing of just precedent or inertia. We've just never felt the need to start one.
Well, thank
Would that
you.
be a bunny maker?
Not according to my friend, the mayor and Brian, it doesn't make much.
Based off running a dog warden's office in a previous career, it's not normally a moneymaker.
It'd be uncontrollable.
Well, do we have any other citizens' concerns? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn for this evening?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Hancock, second. Mr. Mast. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening, reconvening in 2 weeks, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.